In the 1980s, if you saw a black man playing rugby union, and that's a big if, he was invariably stuck out on the wing because it was perceived all he had to offer was sheer pace. Or he was a prop forward because it was perceived all he had was brute strength. There was one, though, who bucked that trend, one who was different. He played in a key decision-making position. He was a scrum half and captain of Saracens. This is the Floyd Steadman story, and it didn't begin well.
My father was a bully, and sadly he victimised and bullied his wife, and he was unpleasant to me and my sister as well. The family unit was broken before my first birthday. Ultimately, there was a lot of intimidation, there was physical abuse, there was emotional abuse. As a 9, 10-year-old boy, I thought that wasn't fair and I ran away.
How does a 10-year-old black boy survive on the streets of London?
I found this playground in the middle of Kingsbury, and at the top of the slide there was a hut. So you climb up the stairs, there's like a little hut, and then you just go down the slide. There were times when I slept in that hut. Now, as a policeman and a social services lady, they took me to my front door. My father opened the door. He refused to allow me back into the house. A 10-year-old boy looking up at his father with the policeman pleading with him to take his son back. But I'll never, ever forget my father's comment. I don't want him back in the house.
How did that make you feel at the time?
Alone, scared, vulnerable, because if I wasn't going home, where was I going? It's incredibly difficult to talk about it, but at least I'm talking about it now. When I was a young man, I was completely embarrassed about my background. I was embarrassed that I was a looked-after child in care, and most people didn't know. When I became a young rugby player and a young teacher, again, people didn't know my personal story. I didn't want them to know my personal story.
Saracens and their vast array of international stars can be found dazzling at the StoneX Stadium in Hendon. There was a time, though, when they were the poor relation of London's elite, a time when they played here in the much more humble surroundings of Bramley Road. They did, though, still have their fair share of stars.
I come here in 1989. I was here for 2 seasons, and they were 2 great seasons for me. I was very much the youngster in the team, and really enjoyed it. Alma.
That's right, Alma Thomas.
Alma Thomas.
Psychologist,
psychologist.
That's right, yeah.
She put out. I remember beginning of the season. She put out a list. 5 things or 4 things that you're good at, and list 4 things that you're bad at. And I listed down what am I good at. I'm fit, I'm scrummage, I'm strong, I'm mobile, whatever.
You still remember that?
Yeah. And then on the what are you bad at, I actually put down not applicable. My captain was Floyd Steadman, who was a fantastic scrum half. It was quite unique, really, because he was like a pocket battleship, really. I mean, he was a fantastic player, but no one could ever seem to tackle him. People used to bounce off him all the time, or he would bounce off them. And he was a man, he was quite quiet. He didn't really scream and shout. He was always very calm and collected. But there was a purpose about him that you knew he was obviously a special, not only a special captain, a special person.
Deep down, I thought people like me don't become captain of a huge club like Saracens. And, you know, to be fair to Saracens, it was incredibly brave of them, Mike, because to this day, I don't think there is another black English scrum half that's played at the top end of the game. And as well as being a black English scrum half, which is rare because you and I know, when we were playing rugby, the black guys were the fast wingers and centres, like you and Jerry Guscott, Chris Otey, or they were the big forwards, Steve Ajoma, Victor Abugu, but they were never the scrum half, the decision-making position.
Must be the last appearance on the senior stage for Floyd Steadman of Saracens. Remarkable career, has come up through the Middlesex under 14, 16s, and now captain of his county for the last time at senior level.
I've got a couple of proud moments. Playing for the Barbarians has got to be an incredibly proud moment, because if I didn't get a cap, then the other team that I really wanted to play for was the Barbarians. And in my final season, all of the pundits said Sarries were one of the favourites to be relegated. The final game of the season, we were playing Wasps with a mathematical chance of winning the championship.
Before the days of professionalism, rugby union players had to get a day job. And like the old saying, Floyd could both do and teach. He began his career as the first black teacher at Edgware School in North London and was championed by a man who on the surface appeared an unlikely ally.
My father was part of the anti-apartheid movement, and he was punished for his activities. They served house arresting and banning orders on all the dissidents. At the time, my parents did have a lot of visitors coming to the house, all part of the ANC. They were keen to introduce me to Nelson, and they said, "Oh, this is our youngest son, Derek. He's very keen on sport." And Nelson said, "Oh, Derek, do you like to box?" Well, I didn't really know much about boxing, and he sort of squared up and pretended to punch me a bit.
And when he was on the run, he came to your house, is that right?
Yes. I don't know if I should talk about it or not. Yes,
I think it's okay now.
He came to, it was supposedly a safe house. I don't think it was that safe, actually. And he met Winnie there, and various other people came to visit him at the time.
You come from a background where everyone should be treated equally. Does that play a part in the fact that you saw Floyd as just a good teacher and nothing more or nothing less?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously you would know he was black. You couldn't not know he was black. But at the time, I would say with my hand on my heart that I appointed the best candidate.
From there, Floyd moved to one of the country's famous seats of learning, a school founded in 1509. So, from being a homeless 10-year-old boy wandering the streets of London alone to becoming the first black teacher at one of England's most prestigious prep schools. A story even too far-fetched for Hollywood.
Mr. Steadman was my teacher, my rugby teacher, my deputy headmaster from the age of, I think, 8 to 12. And I look back and think of him as a really influential and important figure in my life. He was one of those teachers that everyone admired. He was, he had a quiet authority, an innate kindness, but above and beyond everything, he made you, whatever your passion was, and I was really interested in rugby and pretty useless at rugby, but he made you believe that through tenacity, through hard work, through discipline, and with a fire of passion, you could accomplish something, even if it wasn't necessarily your natural habitat, put it that way. And I remember him as a man of, he was an extraordinarily noble man, and someone that you aspired to be.
Floyd became the country's first black head teacher in the independent sector, and his appointment at Salcombe Prep School had unexpected consequences.
There was one evening where he said that, I think you should give rugby a go when you go to your next school. Then I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Then when I went to my next school, which was a rugby playing school, I gave rugby a go.
And that went all right, didn't it?
Well, I'm here speaking to you.
So, give us an idea of the impression then that those few words had on you, given where you are now.
He had a big impact on me because of who he was. He was the headmaster of our school. He was articulate. He was clearly very smart, very educated man. He was also driven, and he led I was only 10 or 11 at the time, but it seemed as if he led with distinction. He led with purpose. He led with with a sense of class. At the time, I knew he used to play rugby. I knew he was the former captain of Saracens. So all of those things, when someone with that standing is telling you you should give this a go, it gives you more of a purpose and more of a belief that there could be something in this.
Not all schools were as enamoured at the prospect of a black headmaster.
A group of parents came over and spoke to me, and I could see that they were agitated. Mr. Steadman, can we speak to you? And I said, yeah, of course, what's the problem? And I took them aside and they said, we overheard a conversation where other parents in our school were disappointed that we have a black headmaster, and we just want you to know that you have got our full support.
How did it make you feel, though?
Deep down, it was very hurtful. But of course, you can't show that. All through my life, and again, I know you'll understand this, I've had to push back against people that look at me and make assumptions based on one thing and one thing alone, the colour of my skin. And I've got to push back, but it's important that I push back in a non-threatening way. I lost her on Sunday the 20th of November 2016 at 3 minutes to 9. One of the most painful memories that I've ever had to endure. I felt incredibly alone. Probably the first time that I felt alone for over 40 years since meeting Denise. And I then realised that I've got my wonderful sons and a lovely, loving family, but it still doesn't take away from that grief and that feeling of being utterly, utterly by yourself.
Our upbringing, our lives have been
so much easier.
Thousands of times easier than his. And a lot of that is down to how hard he's worked, and we're fully aware that he's managed to get himself into a position where we don't have to experience the challenges he's faced.
Yeah. That's half the reason he's done it as well. He's motivated to not put us in a situation where he was when he was younger.
My wife was one of 11, a remarkable family that accepted me straight away, and they were the ones that really, really supported me through some of those very, very dark days.
Everything he's achieved in life, he's achieved off his own back, his own hard work, an absolute credit to his own personality.
It's been harder than we even think it's been for him, really, because we haven't, children's homes, things like that mean absolutely nothing to us. It's just something you watch on Tracy Beaker.
Are you happy?
I've got 3 delightful young men as my sons, a wonderful extended family. I should be happy. I am happy. But Mike, I'm still driven to do things. While I have this drive and energy, I want to do things to make life better for other people.